What's up, everyone? I'm Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. And in particular, in this video, I'm here to help you use your Fractal audio device as an audio interface in a much more clear and controllable manner. The previous video that I did on using a Fractal device as an audio interface was a little bit more curtailed towards reamping and using it within a DAW. In this one, I got a ton of questions on that video, so in this video in particular, I'm going to answer some of those questions, and I also want to leave this open and do this a little bit as a mini-series for maybe the next couple of weeks or so. So if you have additional questions, leave those in the comment space below, and I will get to those and I will answer them in a following video. In this video, I'm going to focus on setting up the device. In this case, it's going to be the FM3, but the same thing will be true for the FM9 and the FX3. Setting up those devices on the computer, just getting to the computer side of things. So if you want to listen to YouTube videos and play backing tracks and listen to music and that sort of thing, how to do that routing. We're going to talk about cabling, and then I'll also talk about having a. I had a question about is the DI signal too quiet? We'll talk about that, and overall general signal flow and DAW routing and stuff as well. I'm looking at my notes down here because I got those written out. Real quick, before we get into those questions, if you want to download some of my favorite Fractal tones for yourself, like all of these amplifiers that I have dialed in, all of these cabinets that I have dialed in, and a bunch more, you can download my very own block library for free over at my website, matthewdale.com/blocks, and I will link to that in the description box below. So let's talk about cabling real quick. Here's my cabling setup. I've got my 1/4 inch from my guitar, my 1/4 inch instrument cable from my guitar going into input 1. That's pretty self-explanatory. We know how to do that. And then I am using output 2 in this case. You can also use output 1, but the way I have it set up right now, I'm going from output 2, 1/4 inch TRS to my studio monitors. And then I'm using just a regular USB cable, so a USB-B connected to the FX and then USB-A going into the computer. That's all the cabling that is required for all of this stuff to work properly. Cable from the guitar to the FX connected to the speakers, and then digital connection from the FX. Or the FM3, sorry, in this case, from the FM3 USB going into the computer. Now, full disclosure as well, because I am also recording a video and I'm, sharing my screen and trying to do all this other production stuff, I'm also using another device, my Studio Live 16 mixer, as my interface for the video stuff. But I tried to separate this stuff in a way that I clearly explain what's going on, but that you also get good, clean audio on the video. So you're not hearing just the speakers bleeding into this microphone, but you're actually hearing the audio. But the cabling required and the setup required is going to be the same. Even though I got a couple of other things going on, the setup is going to be the same for you. So now on the digital side of things, let's first navigate towards, I'm on Mac right now. It's going to be similar on the PC, but, a little bit different for PC because, they're just different. I am going to go into my audio MIDI setup, and this is going to pull up all of my audio devices. So go to your audio device menu, wherever that might be, audio MIDI setup on a Mac, and now we can see all of my available audio devices for my computer, any sort of computer audio that is going to be happening. Right now, you can see my FX3, the FM3, the FM9, my Studio Live 16, which I said is going to be active for the recording of this video, and then I've got a couple of aggregate devices. If you want an additional lesson on aggregate devices, let me know as well, because that can be a little bit confusing. Right now, we can see that Studio Live 16 is selected as my interface for all of this audio, which is going to be alerts and input and output. I want my FM3 to be my input source and my output source. As far as audio interfaces go, the FM3 is a 4x4, like my truck, and the FM9 and the FX3 are 8x8 audio interfaces. So we can see these channels, these USB channels. If we go to the input, here's the FM3. Here are 4 input channels for the FM3, and here are the 4 output channels for the FM3. We'll see how we can configure those more in a second. And let's leave this up here just for a second. Let's go over to our FM3 setup menu and talk about what we need to do there. Now we're in the setup menu. If you remember from a second ago, I said that I'm using output 2 on the physical device. So I want my USB playback channels, USB 1 and 2 playback destination, to go to that output. So I'm going to select output 2. If you have your speakers connected to output 1, then you're going to want to go to output 1. And now what we have is computer audio that is going through the FM3 to our speakers. So if I just go over here to this YouTube video, whoever that handsome devil is, that audio is going through the FM3 to my speakers. It is not interacting with the grid, and I can show you this. If I navigate to an empty preset, there's nothing going on the grid, but I'm still going to get playback sent to output 2, because that's where we have it set, to my speakers. So you're not processing any of this USB output stuff on the grid. The grid is solely for guitar signals and whatever signals that you route to the grid. You have to physically route things to the grid. Now, if I navigate back over to that preset that I was using, dumbbell, guess what kind of amplifier I use for this? Now I have this block set to output 1, but because I have output 2 plugged in, I just have my copy set to output 2, copy set to output 1, so that I still get signal. Now, another thing real quick while we're talking about just the overall setup and routing signals here real quick, this is something you're going to want to pay attention to, USB playback levels. So this will control the level of our USB playback, whatever is happening in this case on our computer. So if I play this, I can turn my computer audio down, leave my guitar audio up, and then mix the two as I see fit. I find that right now with the way that I have things set up, -10 is pretty decent. Again, you can do this to taste. Now, if you don't want to go into your setup menu and keep adjusting this, and if you want to map this to a hardware parameter, here's what I would suggest. Go up to your, let me just remove it for right now because this is usually where I have it, but go to your global performance pages and go ahead and drag this guy up to the global, any slot you want. I'm just doing this right here. It's right in the middle of my global performance page. That way, let me get out of this. I'm going to play this again. You can see I can turn that down or up and so on and so forth. So I am going to go back to about -10, just, kind of like 50% value here. So, and that way I've got that on its own dedicated knob without adjusting the overall output. If I adjust the output of everything, then my guitar is going to be affected alongside my computer. This will help you mix the two so you can get a better mix of if you're, practicing with backing tracks or something like that. So that is the computer setup. There's also one other thing I want to show you real quick back in the audio MIDI setup. You can also configure the speakers on the output tab, and this will basically say, where do you want to send the sound from the computer? Right now I'm sending it to where I have out, and this is not output 1 and 2. This is not the output block 1 and 2. This is what I have USB out 1 and 2 set to, which is output 2. We can adjust this, to wherever we want. So I still have it just going there so it doesn't interact with the grid. I can test this. It's super annoying, but there's my left side. There's my right side, and you can use that to double check that you've got good signal flow. Let's go into the DAW now, Studio One. So first things first, our DAWs don't always use our default audio device from our computer. So we need to make sure that this is active. Right now I've got Studio Live 16 active. I want the FM3 as my audio interface. So it's going to reconfigure stuff. We're going to hit OK. And now Even though I have it selected, let's go ahead and play some audio, see what happens. Nothing is happening. I've heard this question before in that other video as well. You may need to go in and double check where our outputs from our output bus, our main output bus, is being sent. So right now it says none. So no audio is going to any sort of destination. We want to put it back to output channels 1 and 2 that we have set on the FM3, and now we have playback audio. Also, another question that I have is, will you only be able to monitor guitar tracks, or can you monitor everything? Well, as you can see here, these are MIDI tracks and using software instruments. I've got a keyboard that I have up here, and then I've also got, what else do I have? I think one's there's the Wurlitzer. This might have been the bass. Stratocaster full. I guess I was doing some charting. Here's a bass, and then I've got some drums as well. All of these are being played back to my speakers through the FM3. Again, not interacting with the grid. So I do have all of my monitoring available to me. And I can mute this, and of course we mute it just as we would with any other sort of audio interface. Let's talk more about guitar-specific stuff. So if I go to... if I hit T and I pull in some guitar tracks, let's record some guitar audio here. Let's go ahead and drop these guys in. And on the input side of things, we got 4 input channels. I want to source from input 1 first. This is going to be the physical output block, and it says out 1 block. That's going to be whatever I had going on the grid to this output block. And now the second guitar track, let's DI. Let's capture a dry signal here, a DI signal. Input 3 is sourcing just from the in 1 left or into left, one of the input blocks. We're going to have this source just from here, whatever we have on the input 1. So we're going to get both. If I record enable these, we're going to see levels. One is going to be our fully processed guitar, and one is going to be just a direct, dry, unprocessed guitar tone. If I do a little bit of recording, and this is a exercise, backing track for an exercise that I'm working on, so I'll play a little bit of the exercise. That'll be enough for right now. So now I've got very different things going on here. Let's go ahead and just solo it out. This is my fully processed guitar. And again, if I want to adjust that level, I can adjust the playback level. And then let's solo the other one out. This is just our dry DI signal. And again, unprocessed, just raw pickups going through the cable. This is a very weak signal, and I got a question about this. Is this too weak? Do I need to amplify this anymore? And actually, no, you don't. As long as you keep things at unity gain, this is going to be okay, because this is the same exact signal that the FM3 is seeing to do all of its processing that you have going on. So if you boost it, you're actually going to be sending your FM3 a hotter signal, and it would make reamping, everything would be just way gained out. So you're not going to want to do that. Leave this weak. It's okay. It's what you want to do. Now, if we do want to reamp this, let's go ahead and leave that muted out. I'm going to send input 3, sorry. We're going to send that guitar 2 track. I don't want to send this to my main output bus, where it was a second ago. I've actually got a second bus here that I typically use for a click track, but now I'm going to use it for reamping. So I'm going to take guitar 2, we're going to send it to my click bus, and I'm going to send my click bus to the input block. So in 1 block right there, and this is going to send my dry signal. We're not going to hear it anymore if I solo this out. No dry signal. We see the levels popping up. This is going to send this back to input 1, but only if you do this. If you go back to setup, and if you go to input, we're not playing analog anymore. We're playing digital. So USB channel 3 and 4. Now, if I play this, and I'm going to leave my master bus muted because we're actually going to be playing the FM3 live, basically. Here is what we have. I'm not playing, but that's the signal going to the FM3. And let's go ahead and stop that. Now, if I want to record that and reamp it, let's go ahead and just do that here. So let's go ahead and go back and re-record this. We'll reamp it. First things, we want to make sure we're sourcing it from our output block now. So this is back to input 1, just like we did with our first guitar track. Let's get something a little bit different going, like a different preset, like this guy with some drive. And let's go back to our DAW. And now we're gonna have a brand new guitar track going here. So so there's our different tone. Let's go back and record this. And now we have that new audio. If you don't want to have the FM3 playing your track as you are trying to listen and mix, just mute out your DI output bus. And now that's our reamped track there. Now, one thing that you also may have noticed is I don't have the monitoring selected. I don't need to do the digital monitoring in this case because the FM3 is actually allowing the playback and my live guitar playing to coincide. And in fact, if you don't use this monitoring, the digital monitoring in your DAW, you won't have any problems with latency because your guitar signal isn't gonna need to be going through the DAW and then coming back out of the DAW. It's just gonna be your guitar signal. So that's a better way to monitor with these devices because we're actually using them a little bit as a mixer as well. So I hope this answered a lot of your questions. Again, if you have more, put those in the comment space below and we will keep this thread going. My name is Matthew Dale. Don't forget to head over to matthewdale.com/blocks to download some of my blocks for yourself. And I will see you all in the next video.